Hello, I'm your host, Neil Howard, here on Health Professional Radio with Dr. Regina Berkovich. She's joining us here as an expert in multiple sclerosis, and she's going to talk about the different types of MS and a brand new FDA-approved drug for a specific type. She's joined by Paula, a multiple sclerosis patient who's been dealing with a specific type of MS for several years, known as SPMS. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Dr. Berkovich and Paula. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for having us.
Now, Dr. Berkovich, I did mention that, of course, you're here as an expert in multiple sclerosis. You're a neurologist.
I'm a physician, a neurologist, and I specialize in multiple sclerosis. I graduated back in 1999. I had 2 fellowships, one in clinical pharmacology and the other one is multiple sclerosis. And I'm seeing predominantly patients with MS. And this is focus of my clinical and research attention as well.
Our second guest, Paula, is here as a patient dealing with SPMS. Paula, what is your background?
Well, I was diagnosed with relapsing remitting MS first in 2001, and I've had SPMS since about 2008. And I was working before I was diagnosed with MS, and I haven't worked full-time since. I've just been raising a family and dealing with my
Dr. Berkovich, what is MS and SPMS?
MS is an autoimmune condition or immune-modulated condition when subject's immune system makes a mistake and for some unknown reason or multiple different reasons starts attacking a particular part in the body, targeting, in the case of MS, the protection surrounding the central nerves called myelin. So multiple sclerosis is quite common disease these days. So in the United States, at least 400,000 patients are affected, and the real numbers could be much bigger because it's a very, very conservative estimate. Secondary progressive MS is a condition when progression overcomes and becomes the driving force of the disease. The majority of patients diagnosed with MS get diagnosed with relapsing remitting forms. So that means that episodes of acute events of exacerbation or relapses are being interposed by the periods of normalization or relapses. So this is not the case with secondary progressive MS when after every exacerbation, the condition doesn't go back to the previous level of functioning, but continues accumulating the disabling symptoms. Disability takes over. And that is basically secondary progressive MS. Unfortunately, close to 80% of patients who were previously diagnosed with relapsing remitting MS may progress into secondary progression. So active secondary progressive MS or active SPMS is one that condition is being experienced with superimposed evidence of inflammatory disease, such as continuous relapses or new lesions or enlarged or active lesions on the imaging studies, such as MRI.
Paula, you said that you were working before you were diagnosed with the relapsing form that we talked about, and it progressed. How did you know that you were progressing? What was happening that was different from your initial diagnosis?
Well, when I was first diagnosed, I was having multiple symptoms that would come and go. That's relapsing, remitting. But a couple of symptoms just kept progressing. They would not go away. My main symptom or main issue is my mobility, my ability to stand up on my own, unaided, and to walk on my own. And that one symptom it just kept getting harder and harder to deal with. And it's still over time, I see that it still is one symptom that is getting worse and worse. Right now, my MS seems to be kind of stable, if you want to use that. That's not really a good word for MS, but I haven't had a lot of new symptoms recently, which is very good. But my mobility, my energy level is the hardest thing because it just continually keeps getting worse and not better.
Doctor, there's a newly approved FDA drug called Mayzent for this specific type of MS. Talk about this new drug and how is it giving MS patients some hope?
Certainly. Mayzent is first and the only medication that has been shown efficacy in specifically designed large randomized study focused on the patients with secondary progressive MS. So we're quite excited about this medication being approved and now becoming available. Many different disease-modifying therapies were studied for their potential effects in secondary progressive MS and unfortunately failed. So Mayzent is the first medication that was studied in the larger clinical trial specifically designed for and did show efficacy in active secondary progressive MS and got approved for that. So that's what makes this medication quite unique. And it is a pill, once a day, oral medication. It got approved actually for different clinical types of MS, including a very first event of MS called clinically isolated syndrome, relapsing remitting MS, and also active secondary progressive MS, which is actually closest to the population of patients which were studied for Mayzent. So this is why I truly believe that this medication is really giving a hope which is quite supported by substantial scientific and clinical evidence.
Paula, and your experience with Mayzent?
Well, actually, it's a very new drug, and I haven't had that conversation with my doctor yet to see if it would be appropriate for me. So that's the conversation I'll be having in the future with my doctor.
Where can our listeners go and get some more information about Mayzent and about SPMS specifically and multiple sclerosis in general?
I would recommend to refer to the National MS Society website for more information on the MS. Regarding Mayzent, there is a specific website called Mayzent.com, Mayzent.com. And of course, I would recommend to talk to the urologist, preferably the one specializing in multiple sclerosis, in order to get more information individually. Is that going to be a good medication, an appropriate medication, and diagnosis specifics? It's always a good idea to discuss with MS specialists whenever it comes to individual patients.
Thank you so much, both of you, Dr. Berkovich and Paula. Thank you for joining us here on Health Professional Radio.
You're very welcome.
Welcome.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Transcripts and audio of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au.